Hey guys, it's me again. I'm going to be doing another book reading, but I'm going to be reading little part of the book that I liked and used to read all the time. And the book is called Haunted Schools, True Ghost Stories by Zullo. And I'm going to be reading the first little part there called The Stay Behind. Alright, so let's start. In a clearing atop a wooded hill in the one-room schoolhouse didn't so much stand as it did lean. The peeling wood siding had been painted much too long ago for anyone to remember. Many slats of black shutters that covered 6 big windows had fallen off from rot. On the peak of the rust-stained tin roof of a weather-beaten bell tower was on the brink of collapse, yet it still housed a cast-iron bell whose ring faithfully had announced the beginning of the school day for generations of kids who grew up in nearby Chandelier's Hollow. In 1953, after serving the community for more than 60 years, the school was closed. Although people in the area didn't have the money to preserve the building, they refused to tear it down. They left the school as it was, with desks, with bookcases, and a slate blackboard still in their places, although just about everything else was cleaned out. The community wanted to keep the schoolhouse as a reminder of the days when kids of all ages were taught one at a time, under one roof by one teacher. It was in this aging, abandoned structure where Troy Anders and Cody Kincaid received a school lesson they will never forget. Troy, 12, a big city boy, was spending much of the summer with Cody, his 13-year-old country cousin. One day, the two rode bikes on remote gravel road to a spring-fed pond. On the way, they passed the old schoolhouse. "It's been empty for years and years," explained Cody. "Can we go inside?" asked Troy. "It's locked. There's nothing much to see. Just an old, big, dusty room. People say it's haunted." "It is?" Troy asked excitedly. "Yeah, I guess so. Mary Alms, who lives up on the farm on the road, says she's heard voices, kids laughing and stuff, when she comes by here. Melvin McCarr was out with his hounds that one night, and they pitched a howling fit when they came near it. Melvin says he walked up to the schoolhouse and saw lights flickering through the shutters. He checked the door, and it was locked. So he then peeked through one of the shutters and saw an older woman inside. She wore clothes from 50 years old and was sitting at her desk reading to a couple of barefoot kids in their seats. The dogs were making a ruckus, so Melvin turned around to shush them up. He noticed the dog's hair was sticking on end. Melvin got them quieted down, but when he looked back in the schoolhouse, it was all dark inside. Lots of people have seen or heard spooky things inside. "Wow," said Troy. "Have you seen any ghosts?" "Nah, I don't believe in them," said Cody. "Come on, let's head over to the springs and cool off. It's hotter out here than the inside chicken coop at high noon." Within minutes, Cody and Troy were splashing in the crystal clear water. After an hour of fun, they toweled off when a loud clang echoed off the surrounding hills. "What's that?" asked Troy. "Sounds like a school bell, but there isn't any school for miles around except the old empty one. Let's go check it out." They hopped on their bikes and followed the ringing, which led them directly to the schoolhouse. When they reached the schoolyard, Cody looked up at the bell tower and said, "That bell's ringing its darn fool head off. Someone must have broken in." They walked up to the door, but the padlock was still clasped to the latch. After circling the building and finding all the shutters were closed, the boys wondered how anyone got inside. Cody stepped back from the school to get a better view of the bell tower. I don't know what to make of that, said Cody, pointing to the bell. There's no rope, nothing to make it move, but it's ringing on its own. You did say it was haunted. People claim it's haunted. Let's go inside. But it's locked. No problem, Cody said, pulling out a pocket knife, and in minutes the lock snapped free. At that exact moment, the bell stopped ringing. A twinge of nervousness spread through Troy's stomach. For Cody, the bigger and the tougher of the two boys, curiosity was building with each passing second. Let's see if we can solve the mystery of the bell. He pushed open the squeaky weathered door, and they stepped into a large room where the stale, musty air caused the boys to sneeze. Thin beams of light from the afternoon sun squeezed through the shutters' broken slats, casting an eerie glow on the room's contents, which were covered in dust laced with spider webs. Facing a teacher's simple oak desk were 4 rows, each with 6 wooden straight-back chairs. Each chair had an arm on the right side, only that flared out into a foot-square pad up on the students would write. Troy sat in one of the chairs. Man, these are uncomfortable. Can you imagine sitting in one all day? Ouch, my back would be sore for 9 months a year. Yeah, with the arms on the right side, I feel sorry for all the students who were lefties. They began looking at all the small letters, names, and dates that had been carved into the chairs over the years. KL plus AA 8/24/32. Kilroy was here. Boo. What about the bell? Cody looked up through the opening of the ceiling to the bell tower. I don't get it. Without a rope, there's no earthly reason for the bell to be ringing. I guess we should go, said Troy, feeling a bit jittery about the bell. With every step they took, the wood flood creaked and groaned. About 30 feet, 9 meters, from the door, a wood plank snapped under Tony's weight, and his left foot plunged through a hole in the floor. Ow, hey Cody, my foot is stuck. Help me out. Cody chuckled as he kneeled down and pushed the wooden plank out of the way, freeing Troy. Before he stood up, Cody spotted a small object inside the hole. He reached down and pulled out a thin book small enough to fit into a pocket. Troy, look at this. The worn book was so old that the lettering on the cardboard-like cover had nearly faded away. They could barely make out the title, Cobb's Juvenile Reader. About 100 delicate pages, yellowed from age, were bound by the spine and string and still readable. Be careful with this book, cautioned Troy. It could be valuable. The boys were so intent on examining their find that they failed to heed a new sound coming from the front of the room. Tap, tap, tap. They looked up in surprise. Standing by the teacher's desk was a husky woman in her early 60s, hitting the top of her desk with a wooden pointer. Her brown hair was rolled up into a bun, and a pair of rimless eyeglasses attached to a chain around her neck perched on the end of her nose. She wore a long, flowed dress and a pair of plain brown shoes. You boys are tardy, she gently scolded them. You know what they say, lost time is never found again. Troy and Cody stared at her in open-mouthed amazement, not moving a muscle. The book slipped out of Cody's hands and fell to the floor. Find your seats now so we can get school started, she said. Pardon me, ma'am, but who are you? Asked Cody. Flashing a patient smile, the woman replied, I'm Miss Sissy Simmons, of course. The way her tongue drew out the S's of her name reminded the boys of the hissing sound of snake sound a snake makes. How did you get in here without us seeing you? Asked Troy. I've been here the whole time, she answered. You probably weren't paying attention, that's all. But when we came in, countered Cody, the room was empty. Oh, but you're wrong. I'm here. I have always been here. She flicked her wrist. Now enough of this dilly-daddling. We have much to cover today. Cody cocked his head. Pardon? Miss Simmons put her hands on her hips and huffed. Dost thou love life? Then do not squander time, for that stuff life is made of. Words to heed from poor Richard's almanac. Find your seats now, please. We have lessons to do. Cody, Troy whispered out of the side of his mouth. Is she insane or what? Maybe we ought to split right now. She is a little touched in the head, Cody agreed, but let's play along and see what happens. The boys dutifully sat in chairs across from each other in the middle of their rows. Good, Miss Simmons, said Miss Simmons. Today we're going to talk about states and their capitals, work on our division, practice penmanship, and read. Pointing to Troy, she added, but first, why don't you lead us in the Pledge of Alliance? This is stupid, thought Troy. I can't believe I'm here, pretending to be a student for this crazy lady. He glanced up at Cody, who gave him a wink. Slowly he and Cody stood up, and Troy started, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. When they finished and sat down, Miss Simmons said, Doesn't it seem awfully dark in here? I think the shutters should be opened. The boys heard creaking noises and saw the room brighten from the streams of sunlight. The shutters, yelled Troy. They're opening by themselves. How did you do that? Cody asked the woman. Miss Simmons dismissed the question with another flick of her wrist and said, Now, let's get out Cobb's Juvenile Reader. The boys were so spooked by the unexplained way the shutters opened and gazed blankly towards the front of the room. Finally, Troy warily raised his hand. Ma'am, Miss Simmons, we don't have our books. She shook her head. You're new here, aren't you? Look on the floor behind you. You'll find a Cobb's Reader that you two can share. Now turn to page 445 and begin reading out loud. Cody picked up the book he dropped, returning to his chair and opened the reader. After scooting his chair over towards Cody, Troy turned to the page, cleared his throat, and began reading from a page titled, What is Pleasant? It is very pleasant to walk in the fields and to have the sun shining wherever we go. There are some people who would like to have nothing but summer and who wish that the days were always long and bright and that there were no cold wind or snow or winter nights. Without rain, the seeds from which the flowers and the fruits of summer sprang up would perish and never do any good. You're super, praised Miss Simmons. Pointing to Cody, she said, Now you read to the class. Trying to mask the ungrowing easiness in his voice, Cody mumbled and read as fast as he could. It is a sad thing to have learned to read and not to know what a pretty book is better than a ball or kite or any toy in the world. For a toy, you know, is soon spoiled and we grow tired of it, and then we forget it and it's no use. But a book can tell us many kinds of things and contains sometimes pretty stories. So when the winter comes again, do not be sorry, but ask your papa or mama to find some pretty book in which you will read of things of which you will be pleased to know. The boys looked up from the book. Miss Simmons was gone. Where did she go? Asked Troy. She must have sneaked out while we were reading this book. Man, that is one weird lady. Let's go before she comes back and tries to give us another lesson. Troy shoved the book in his back pocket, and they started for the door. Where do you think you're going? It was Miss Simmons, her arms folded, standing in front of the door. Get back to your seats, please. Suddenly the room filled with children's laughter, the kind directed at a classmate in trouble. Where's the laughter coming from? Asked Troy, his eyes growing wider by the second. From inside this room. Cody replied, his head turning in search of the source. But there's no one else except you, me, and the crazy lady. Boys, sit down, Miss Simmons ordered. Don't let me have to use the switch on you. Totally bewildered by the laughter, the boys meekly returned to their seats. Now, who can name me the states that begin with A? When the boys remained silent, Miss Simmons marched over to Troy and whacked the pointer on his desk. He once and rattled off Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, and Alaska. The first three are correct, said Miss Simmons, but Alaska is not a state, it's a territory. Ma'am, said Troy, Alaska is our 49th state. Land's sakes, she said with a chuckle. How many states do you think we have? 50. And the other is? Hawaii? No, Hawaii is a territory too. That's it, Cody snapped, rising out of his chair. The fun is over, ma'am. This has gone on long enough. I don't believe how you pulled off that trick with the shutters, and I don't know where you came from. But we're not reading any more little books, and we're not playing your pretend games, and we're leaving. And by the way, there are really 50 states. Look it up yourself. What? She asked, her eyes glaring. Do you think you can simply walk out of school whenever you want? She gazed over the heads and then addressed the empty chairs. Well, children, can we leave whenever we want? Out of nowhere, there came a chorus of no's and uh-uhs. Where's that coming from? Said Troy, his throat tightening. I don't see any kids. Do you, Cody? Time to get out of here, Cody shouted. Bang, 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 bang. The boys froze and watched in shock as the shutters slammed shut by themselves, one after the other. By the time the boys recovered, the door had closed too. Now see what you have done, hissed Miss Simmons, her eyes flashing angrily. The whole class must be punished for your behavior. A collective groan filled the room, and a chorus of boos and nasty remarks rained on the befuddled boys. Nothing made sense to Troy and Cody. The strange woman voices of invisible children laughing at them. Miss Simmons strode down the middle row of desks and announced, We will sit in darkened silence and pray that evil thoughts and deeds you have brought forth will cleanse from your minds and mouths. With his teeth clenched, Cody whispered to his cousin, I don't know about you, but I'm busting out of here. Troy nodded on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, go. The boys shoved a few of the chairs aside and scrambled for the door Miss Simmons was guarding. Just shove her out of the way, Cody. With their heads down, the boys charged at the woman and then barreled right through her. They whipped open the door and sprinted into the sunshine. What just happened? Asked Cody. I know it's impossible, but we ran straight through her. I mean, it was like she wasn't even there. But she was there. We saw her. I don't get it either. Let's go. They hopped on their bicycles and sped off towards home, pumping furiously until they were a mile away. They finally took a break near a weed-infested cemetery. Who was that woman, Cody? Asked Troy. I don't know, but I think we were in the presence of a certified nutcase. How she pulled off those stunts with the shutters and the disappearing act is beyond me. Can you imagine having a teacher like Miss Sissy Simmons? Asked Troy, mocking her by the stuttering of the S's in her name. They both laughed. Then Troy dropped his bike on the side of the road and stared past Cody. Oh man, this is too creepy. What is it? As if in a daze, Troy walked past Cody towards one of the gravestones. Cody, look at this, he said, his voice rising with excitement. With a shaking hand, he pointed to the words etched into the gray granite tombstone. Sissy Ann Simmons, beloved teacher, 1888 to 1949. Suddenly the afternoon quiet was shattered again by the pealing of the school bell. The freaked-out boys jumped onto their bikes and pedaled straight home. Within 24 hours, everyone out around Chandelier's Hollow had heard about the boys' encounter with the ghostly teacher. Curious adults and children held vigils at the old schoolhouse day and night, waiting for Miss Simmons to show up again or for something spooky to happen, and nothing did. About a month later, Carl Heller, a noted ghost hunter, heard about the case and arrived in Chandler's Hollow to investigate. He interviewed the boys and talked to the other people in the area who previously claimed to have seen or heard strange things at the schoolhouse. Heller also spent several days inside the building. When he finished his investigation, he told Cody, Troy, and the townspeople his starting conclusion. I believe you boys encountered what I call a stay-behind. Most ghosts are people who died tragically and are unable to recognize what happened to them, Mr. Heller explained. They move out into the physical world, but usually not outside the immediate area of where they died. However, many ghost sightings involve people who had peaceful deaths. Upon further investigation, I found these cases all had two things in common. The people were strong-willed and greatly attached to their surroundings before their deaths. They are stay-behinds. They are spirits aware of their own death, who won't let go of their former surroundings. They're simply unwilling to leave their earthly surroundings, even though they no longer possess such a physical body. Stay-behinds are still capable of causing bizarre phenomena, especially if they draw on the energy of other people. In this case, Sissy Ann Simmons. She was a teacher in Chandler's Hollow for nearly 40 years, according to what I could find in the archive of the school board. Apparently, she never married and gave all of herself to that one-room school. She died in that building at the age of 61. I believe she loved that school so much her spirit wanted to stay. She became a stay-behind. Why did we see her and the others haven't? Asked Troy. It's like a typical stay-behind. Sissy Simmons is quite satisfied to continue living her former life, staying out of the way of real people. She remains undiscovered until someone with special ability notices her by accident, or unless a real person comes in contact with something that was dear to her when she was alive. In this case, she appeared after Cody found the book. In other cases, for unknown reasons, the stay-behind wants people to know he or she is still around. Obviously, Sissy Simmons wanted to teach, and you two happened to be her students for the day. I've had some unusual teachers, said Troy, but no one like Miss Sissy Simmons. And that was the little part of the book, The Stay Behind. If you guys liked me reading this part of the book, I would be glad to read more parts of it. And so yeah, I'll see you guys later. Bye.